Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Raw Knuckles podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe.
And Knuckles was there, and all the boys were there, and they're having a few beers, having a good time. And somebody made a hole in the bathroom, kicked the wall or something.
Nice.
So my father, who's like 5'5", going around to all these big tough guys, giving them shit, going, "Did you make a hole in my
Who would
in my
kick
bathroom?
on my wall?
Did you,
Who would kick on my wall?
Nyla, did you do that?" And then he'd go to Gord Donnelly. He's going to the tough guys. I go, "Dad, they didn't." Then Gord goes, I did it, Mr. Momesso. I had too much to drink. I said, "I'm sorry." And it was kind of funny watching my dad giving it to all the tough guys.
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down, and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious, and I was malicious, and I don't care.
He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town.
All right, Momo, welcome to the Raw Knuckles podcast, buddy. Good to have you. Love having my former teammates. Tim, when I told Tim, I texted him, I said, "Hey, we're having Sergio Momesso." He said, "Who is that? Your landscaper?"
Yeah.
So I said, "No, actually, he was a former teammate." So,
Actually, I can tell you a funny story when I was in New York about that because I'm Italian. I was playing for the Rangers, as you know, and I was living up in Rye, and I was in a townhouse complex, and I was actually outside working in the garden, and the neighbor came over and said, "Can you come over here?" Because I had a cut-off T-shirt, like, the white Italian shirt there, and it was in the springtime, and she goes, "Can you fix this thing over there on this side?" And I said, I started to laugh. I felt bad. It was an older lady, and I said, "Ma'am, I'm your neighbor. I actually live here. I actually own one of these condos, townhouses." She didn't know I played for the Rangers. She was so cute.
Oh, funny. So you thought you might have had a good second career there, landscaping. No. Anyway, Mo, I want to go back. I remember you were drafted in 83 and, played in Shawinigan, a great junior career. And Serge had taken over as GM, and he wanted to bring a lot of Quebec kids. He wanted to draft kids from the Quebec League, and certainly he had 2 years there, 83 and 84. You, Claude Lemieux, Patrick Roy, Steph, Richer. I mean, he drafted some great young players, and you were part of that crop. I remember you coming in and getting off to a great start. Your first 24 games, you had 15 points, 8 goals, and you're playing with McPhee and Skridlin. And I want to start here because it's so important to your whole story is that very beginning in the NHL. And you're a rookie, you come in, you're a local kid, grow up in Montreal, and then all of a sudden we go to Boston and you end up getting tied up with Michael Telvin. You end up getting knee on knee and you tear your ACL. How listen, I was there, I know, but really, how bummed out were you when that happened? And what'd you go through on a personal level?
Yeah. I remember that. Like, you'll never forget it, right? It was, I finally make the big club. I make it at 20 years old with all those guys that you're talking about. We all had great junior careers. And I remember they wanted to draft, big guys for that Adams division, right? So work in the corners, get in front of the net, and that was part of it. And I got to play right off the bat because the team was going in a transition, as you know, getting rid of some older guys, and then we were like the young legs, I guess, to help the team. And we had a tough start because of all the young guys, kind of like the Canadiens of today, where they have so many good young players. It's going to take some time, but we had great veterans and like yourself and obviously Bob Gainey and Larry Robinson and the whole list goes on and on. But yeah, I was playing a lot of minutes. I was playing on the second power play. I'm 20 years old and I was like, this is great. I have 15 points in 24 games. And I remember one night, I just couldn't believe it. I was still living at my parents' house in NDG in the city. I used to drive to the Forum, it was like 5 minutes away. And I'm actually playing with these guys that I used to watch on TV 2 years earlier when I was 17, 18, before I went to junior. I'm watching these, star players on TV, and it is surreal to be on that ice. And then I'd come back, and my neighbors were saying the same thing. I can't believe I was just watching on TV. You're actually my neighbor. And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of out of it myself. Like it was just going too good, as they say. And then in Boston, when I got hurt, I felt pain right away. I knew I was in trouble. It's not a normal injury. You feel it right away when something breaks. I knew something broke, and it was my ligaments. And once I went to the hotel, and they flew me back to Montreal the next day, and I flew back with Serge Savard. I remember that. Went right to the hospital, and I was, they couldn't give me enough for the pain, like 292s or whatever pills they give you. But I couldn't wait to get into the hospital so they can give me something stronger. That's how much it hurt, obviously. And then they said, well, we're going to go in and we're going to see what it is. And then that was a weird moment, because you go in into surgery and you don't know when you come out what the situation is. And when I woke up the next day, I guess, I was on this machine that kept my knee moving because they didn't want it to tighten it up. Yeah. And then the doctor told me, like, we did this. We put artificial Dr. Linsner, if you recall, they put artificial ligaments, Gore-Tex fiber that kind of crossed to tie up between my ligaments.
To reconnect them.
New ligaments, really. They were torn so far apart. So done for the year. Don't know if I'm going to be playing again. At 20 years old, you finally make it, and then you don't know if you're going to play again. So it was tough. It was tough as it went on to get back, the rehab. But I put my head to it. I said, no, I have to make it back. And I didn't make it back for the run in the playoffs, and I felt I was ready once the playoffs came, because this happened December 4th. I'll never forget that. So by the time the playoffs came around, I was skating with everybody, and I was, the Black Aces, like you say, but there's no way I was going to play. I mean, everybody was, you guys were cruising and winning round after round, and then winning the Stanley Cup. But I got to experience being around everybody, but then I had to kind of make the team again. The year after, I had to prove that I could still, my knee could handle playing, again in the NHL.
Did you have any other injuries up to this point? Was this like your first ever like real injury?
Yeah, that was my first major injury. I don't think in junior I even had any shoulder issues or anything else like that. No, I played all the games pretty much, unless I was suspended.
And Mo, when you talk about the injury and being ready, when you came back, you were the Black Aces. And I think about imagine if you were a righty instead of a lefty. Now, I don't know why they didn't do it, but they ended up putting Steve Rooney in, right? The game I got hurt in Calgary. So there was an open there. It's kind of a bummer because Serge was awesome. He gave you a Stanley Cup ring and made you part of that whole thing. But because of league rules, you couldn't get your name on the cup. And that's a bummer. But, you were still part of that season. And, it's just a bummer that way, you had so
to play
unfortunate.
40. You had to play 40 games or at least one game in the finals or something like that. But then again, watching is one thing, and you have to. Being part of it is what you really want to. I mean, on the ice, Yeah, that's what you really want.
It was like my situation, right? I played the whole playoffs, and I got hurt the last game. I wasn't on the ice now they put their uniform on. They all go out like they played. It's kind of it was a drag. I had my suit jacket on, taking a picture with the cup while everybody's sweating, and I kind of felt shitty. I was so happy, but I felt shitty, that poor me piece of it. But anyway, you start off that way. You come back the next year. You still had good numbers the next year, 14 goals, 17 assists. And then you end up the next 2 years, played 53 games in 87, 88, and you had 21 points. What happens there that you get traded to St. Louis?
Well,
Did you ever? Did you not want to? Like me, I never wanted to leave Montreal. What was it like for you?
I would say I didn't want to leave. I had no idea I was going to get traded. I think, I mean, at the end, we found out that Serge Savard figured out, you know what, he's not the same after their injury, and maybe we can get something in return for him. And they got Jocelyn Lemieux, which was from St. Louis. Nothing against Jocelyn Lemieux,
But he's not Momo.
at the end of the day, when I went back to, I went to St. Louis, I got new life. You know what I did? I had this brace, okay? You remember that brace I had, and this is in the 80s, mid-80s. That brace I had went from my ankle all the way up to almost my hip. It was like another leg. I honestly hated it, and I felt so uncomfortable with it. And this when the braces were starting to, they were working on them, but they weren't as good as they are today, or even 10 years after that. So I basically, what I did is I grabbed it and I threw it in the garbage when I was in St. Louis. I threw the brace in the garbage and I said, you know what? If I'm going to get hurt again, so be it. I cannot play with this thing. I felt so uncomfortable with it on the ice, and it just didn't feel right. And maybe it was something in the head where I just went, I'm just going to go, and I'm still going to play my game. I'm going to go hit everything that I can and play physical. And if it happens again, it happens again. I just and things went well. I ended up playing with Brett Hall and Adam Oates, and had the best year point wise with them. My second year I was there, and got to play on the top line and played a lot of minutes, and it was actually good in St. Louis. But it wasn't just that. I think finally I started to feel like the way it should have been from the beginning. Before I got hurt, I started to feel like, I know I could do it. I mean, I did everything I could in junior and got tons of points there. I just had to get back into the feel again, and I think once I threw that brace in the garbage, it was like, okay, I'm ready to play again, and that's the way it was. Yeah.
Was it easy playing with Hall and Oates? Like, I mean, what was that like? Was it just like get these guys the puck and get open, or how was that for you?
It's great offensively. It's not so good in your own end. But in those days, this is a true story, and this is.
So were you the designated back checker, Mo?
Yeah, third guy high.
I was a designated guy that got all the shit when things went bad. That's what happens when you're a plumber on the line. Listen, I will never forget. Brian Sutter takes me in his office. So he's the coach, right? So you all know the Sutter brothers. They're very
intense.
Intense. And he comes in and he goes, Serge, I'm going to make a move. I'm going to put you on left wing with Hully and Oatesy. I said, okay. He goes, but, I need you to play the same way. Don't change your game. You're on that line because you got some size and some, skill to help them. And you got to be in front of the net and in the corners. And, if anything happens, you're there to protect Hully. I said, I know.
Rah, rah, rah. Rah, rah,
Yeah,
rah.
I got it. You got to be the first forechecker. Okay. And Hully and Oates not so good in their own end, so I need you to be the first guy back in their own end. So he keeps talking and talking and talking, and I'm just nodding, right? I'm just nodding, and finally I stop him. I go, Sudsy, how the hell am I going to be the first guy in and the first guy back? I knew I was in trouble on this line because I'm going to get all the heat, right? Because I got to do all the dirty work for these guys, and they get all the they can do what they want. Really, it doesn't really matter.
Fuck, no wonder why you threw the fucking brace out. God, hard enough going one way with the brace on.
Imagine, and back then there was still the red line. If there was no red line, I wouldn't have saw Hully in our own, not even in the first half of the rink. Like we used to be four against five in our own end, and I get to the box, I go, Hully, every once in a while, would you like to come back and say hi? But Hully was funny. I mean. If I get him a breakaway, I knew right away. I came along the boards. He was taking off up the middle, and I would just either chip it off the boards or just throw it right up the middle at center ice because that's where he was going to be. Breakaway, boom, and he scored. Or in the corner, one-timer slot and he would score. So yeah, I got a lot of points with those guys, but it was, you know, it was a little tough in our own end at times, but it was fun. It was fun because we became good friends, and I'm still friends with Hully today. And Hully, just himself, if you know Hully, obviously you do, Knuckles.
Was Twister there at the time?
A lot of stories on him. Yeah, Twister was there, yeah. Todd Ewan was there, Twister. Yeah.
Were you there when
Kelly
Twister
Chase
dumped that puck in? Huh?
He dumped himself off sides. That puck.
Were you?
I don't know if I remember that. I think Hully asked him once, "Why do you have a stick?" And Twister would, you know, we knew why he was there, but he was pretty good. He took the heat a little bit, but oh boy, yeah, we were pretty tough.
Yeah,
I mean, Kelly Chase, Twister, and Todd Ewan was there, and I mean, we used to call it the Chuck Norris division. In our day,
you had a tough team, and you needed it, right? There, I mean, Detroit, right, had Kocha, Proby, like, yeah.
I think
that was a tough.
Minnesota had Shane Churla and Tenorti and who was it? Basil McRae. They had Willie Paulette, I think, at one point.
Yeah,
my God! I mean, you probably fought him, I guess.
Yeah, I fought Willie. Yeah.
Yeah, but well, I remember John Kordick was in Toronto, and at that time, and Wendell Clark obviously was pretty tough dude.
So that time
for her size.
The time in St. Louis, though, like, listen, they got a great alumni. I get it, and you're going from Montreal to St. Louis, and you spend your 3 years there, and you end up moving on to Vancouver. But before you went to St. Louis, leaving home, you know, growing up in NDG right here, I remember, you know, your father certainly was a really good soccer player, right? Growing up in Montreal, you know, hockey's the big thing. Did you ever play soccer when you were a kid? And did you ever, like, chase that at all, or just hockey?
Well, I tried to play soccer, but I was just too big. I mean, those guys are too small and too fast. I couldn't play soccer. My dad wanted to play soccer. I was a baseball guy, and I used to pitch.
Yeah,
I was actually pretty good. I played, double letter hockey, double letter baseball. So hockey in the winter, baseball in the summer. And my dad would come to every hockey game, but he would never come to baseball. He didn't understand the sport, obviously.
Yeah.
And finally, I got him to come to a baseball game because we were playing in the finals, whatever, and I was pitching. It was a tournament. It was a kind of a big deal. And I'll never forget, God love my mom. They're so innocent. Mm-hmm. So they come to a baseball game because they come to all the hockey games. They loved it. They kind of understood the games and stuff. Plus, my dad was the most popular guy at the bar in junior and stuff. Everybody liked to be around him in that sense. But after the game, I saw my parents. They left after the second or third inning, and they don't know what's going on. And then I saw them later at the house, and I go, "So what do you think of baseball?" She goes, I'm not sure. My mom goes, "Does your coach have a problem?" And I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I was watching your coach, and he was going like this and like this and like that and like that and like this. You see, did he have a nervous problem or something?" And my poor mom, I had to tell her that was the signals for baseball, and she had no idea what it was. But just the fact that they came was nice. And my parents did support me all the way as a kid, all the way to obviously the NHL, but junior, which was, I played in Shawinigan, which was about a 2-hour drive from Montreal towards Quebec City. And in the winter, it's not an easy drive. I mean, they did it every weekend. My dad used to come, and we made nothing in junior, like I think $20 a week. And my dad used to slip me a little bit of extra money once in a while, and my mom would make me a sandwich. You know, like typical Italians, here, take care of my son and this and that. But they were great. They were good for that. But she did one thing that I loved. She came to watch me play baseball for 3 innings.
That's cool.
Good. Yeah.
So, yeah, again, growing up here in Montreal and that hockey end of things, and you play junior and all, your dad had the restaurant, Momesso's, and I'll never forget when, you know,
Your
came in.
Photo's still there.
What's that? I know
Your
that photo's still there.
Yeah.
Christ, what was that? 80, 84,
That was mid-80s.
85,
Tim,
maybe?
that place used to be a pool hall. So everyone smoked in the 70s and 80s, and the walls, after every couple years, we had to repaint in there because the walls turned yellow because of all the smoke. Those photos are still there, but they've faded over the years. But they're still in there. There's yourself. There's obviously there's Chelly and Rick Green and Steve Rooney, and all that Rooney clan came down one day from Boston. And so all the photos are, we had some great times in there. And I'll never forget, there was a story, I think, even Gord Donnelly, who played for the Nordiques, he's from the same neighborhood. And Knuckles was there, and all the boys were there, and they're having a few beers, having a good time. And somebody made a hole in the bathroom, kicked the wall or something. Nice. So my father, who's like 5'5", going around to all these big tough guys, giving them shit, going, "Did you make a hole in my
who would kick on my wall?
Did you,
who would kick on my wall?
Nyla, did you do that?" And then he'd go to Gord Donnelly. He's going to the tough guys. I go, "Dad, they didn't." Then Gord goes, I did it, Mr. Momesso. I had too much to drink." I said, "I'm sorry." And it was kind of funny watching my dad giving it to all the tough guys.
Yeah,
but you guys have a lot of respect.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Your dad was so happy. Like Sergio kept saying, "You guys got to come to my father's place. You got to come." And we'd finally get together and we go there. And we had just an awesome afternoon. I remember I ended up playing Briscola, right? And Scopa. I never knew the games, right? The Italian games. And all the guys, come on and play. It was awesome. And today that restaurant's still there, right? Your brother runs the show there.
I remember when we went back to the house as well, because my dad, you had to try the homemade wine. So I was upstairs, and Tim, these guys all go downstairs. There's about 5 of them, and they walk down to the basement, to the cantina where all the homemade wine is. And I'm up with my mom, so she's cooking. She's cooking some pasta and stuff, and it's about 15, 20 minutes, and I go to my mom. I said, "I think I better check on those guys because that stuff." That can hit you hard.
It's like rocket fuel.
Oh, my God. And then I go downstairs, and you guys are all starting to get wasted down there. My dad's laughing. I go, "Dad, they're not used to this stuff." And he was so happy you were down in the basement drinking wine with him. That made his night.
If someone goes to your restaurant, what's the go-to? I said, like, here in Chicago, there's always, the Italian places always have, like, the good fella. Is there, like, a signature sandwich or something you recommend?
Yeah, usually it's the sausage sandwich
said,
or the Supreme. Yeah. The sausage or the Supreme. Yeah.
The Supreme is this. What's the Supreme? Steak.
Oh.
Yeah, there's the steak, sausage, onions, fried onions, and cheese.
I love the sausage.
Everything you can put in there.
The best.
It's
it's a monster sandwich.
So. Yeah, I'll never forget that day. And I've been in recently. I saw the faded pictures, and it just brought back great memories.
Yeah.
Just so cool. If you love your pet like I love my St. Bernard Adele, you'll want to feed them a balanced, biologically appropriate raw diet. The reason I've chosen Formula Raw is because all blends of their food are locally sourced, and they consist of exclusively human-grade meat and organs, as well as fruits and vegetables. And all products used are hormone and antibiotic free. So like I said, if you love your pet like I love Adele, you choose Formula Raw. Make sure you go to formularaw.com and use the promo code RawKnux at checkout to receive 10% off your first order. That's RawKnux, RawKnux. So, Sergio, your longest stint with a team in the NHL was Vancouver. You go from St. Louis to Van. And how was that? I know you like Vancouver. You guys went to the Stanley Cup final, had a great group. You still have great friendships from them guys today. I know that. But what was it like playing on the West Coast now? You're out west. You know, the travel's different, everything. You're in a whole different environment. And how was your time in Van?
Yeah, it did. It started off, I guess, a little tough because I got traded. When I got traded from Montreal to St. Louis, I got traded in the summer, so I had time to, find a place and kind of get used to the fact that I got traded. When I got traded to Vancouver, I got traded on March 5th. I think it was 91. It was on the deadline, and there was 4 of us that got traded there. It was myself, Jeff Courtnall, Cliff Ronning, and another defenseman called Robert Dirk.
Yeah.
So those guys were all from BC, and I wasn't from BC. And what kind of ticked me off to today, at the time when we got traded, our team was in second place. The Blackhawks were ahead of us, and we had a pretty good team. And I don't know why we made such a big trade on the last day on trading deadline. And I'll never forget, we were in Hartford, and they called us in and said we got traded. They called us all in, and then all of a
Who was
sudden
the GM then?
it was
that
Ron Caron.
Prof. Okay.
And so we got traded, and the Canucks, they were at the bottom, just trying to make the playoffs. So I went from a team that was in second place in our division to a team that was struggling to make the playoffs. I could see why Vancouver made that move, but I don't see why St. Louis made that move. Anyway, we went to Pittsburgh that night. They actually played Cliff, myself, and Jeff Courtnall together, since we played together before. So that was an easy. At least we were played as a line. Just had to wear a different uniform and stuff. Anyway, we were on a 1-game road trip with the Blues, and I kind of just had my suit. And we were going in and out, and then we got traded to Vancouver, and then we were on a 10-day road trip. So we had to buy clothes as we went along on that trip.
Yahoo.
Flew all the way back to Van, and then lived in a hotel for the rest of the year. And then at the end of the year, I had to go back to St. Louis, put the house up for sale and do all that. So there was a lot of stuff going on that trade.
So you had a tough start there.
Well, it was like it felt like I was on the road for 2 months, which I pretty much was. I was in a hotel in Van, and I was a hotel on the road. So by the time the season was over, I kind of got settled, looked for a place for September for the next year. And then all of a sudden, we started to get better. Kurt McLean was a stellar goalie. And then we got this kid called Pavel Bure, who was coming from Russia, that kind of said, we didn't know who he was, right? So we were a pretty good team out west. Calgary was good. Edmonton was still good. But this guy came to practice one day. I don't know when he came. And during the midseason, he came to practice, and we were looking at each other and we're like, wow, this guy's going to be good. And he definitely was. So we ended up getting a star forward to add to our lineup. And Pat Quinn was a great man, who I loved. To me, was the best coach I ever had. He was a guy that played, but he had
Over
respect
Jean
for
Perron?
the players.
Over
No, that's
Puddinghead?
your favorite guy.
Puddinghead?
That
Over
was Johnny's.
Puddinghead?
That was your favorite guy.
I was gonna say.
Better than Puddinghead he was?
Just a bit.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, Pat was a tough player in his own day, and he loved that style of game, and so he respected guys that played that way, and that kind of played for the team, and we all wanted to play for Pat, and we sure did. Vancouver was great. I think the biggest thing that he gave me was the assistant captaincy. I went from being hurt that first year, and then kind of when I went to St. Louis, found my game again, and that was a surprise trade to Vancouver, to be honest. But looking back, some things happen that you have no control over, and he gave me the captain, the assistant captain. Trevor Linden was the captain there, and we had Greg Adams and Dave Babich, and we had good leaders, and we just got better as the seasons went on. And so with Pat Quinn there in Vancouver, we kind of grew, and the team started to get better, and the fans really got into it. The hardest part about being on the West Coast is the travel. There's no question about it. That travel is tough. Time zones all the time, and we're in the East a lot, and there wasn't as many teams as there are now, but there was San Jose, there was LA, but other than that, we were always flying at least 3 hours every time we were going somewhere.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Playing out west.
It was long, yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah, big difference. You're always trying to catch up on the time change there. But yeah, so no, that was good.
Well, that first year there, like you said, you played 6 games in the playoffs. So, like, you never missed the playoffs in your career with the teams you were with. But each year, like, you had great playoff seasons in Vancouver. 90-91, you had the 6 games. Okay, you get bounced in the first round. And then 91-92, 13 games you play in the playoffs. 92-93, 12 games. And then, obviously, 93-94, you go to the Stanley Cup final. How cool was that, like, with that team? Like, how close were you guys? And how difficult was it to get to the very end? Yeah. You're in the Stanley Cup final, and it gets snatched away from you.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we call it the run. They made a tape of that, and they call it the run. And we the 2 years prior, we finished top in our division. Like, we had good teams, and we didn't quite learn how to win in the playoffs. We lost to the Oilers in the second round. We lost 1 year to the Kings. That's in 93 that the Canadiens won against the Kings. And we're like, we beat the LA Kings 7 out of 9 times. We played them 9 times. I'll never forget. 7 out of 9 times during the season. And then in the playoffs, we knew that the Kings were going to play, free wheel and try to win games 6-5 and stuff like that. And if we started to try to play their game, and they did that to a lot of teams, I guess, and they went all the way to the final. But we didn't learn how to win those tight games when we had to. And the next year we played the Flames. That's in 94, and they finished ahead of us, and we were down 3-1. We came back and won Game 5 over there in overtime. We won Game 6 at home in overtime, and then we won Game 7 in double overtime. We won 3 games in a row.
Crazy.
Came back, and once we won that series, I'll never forget. My daughter was born August 30th, 1994, and Game 7 was in Calgary. And my wife was pregnant, so we were in Calgary, and then she called me and she said, "Good night," the night before the game. So I hang up. Call me back in the morning. She goes, "Well, we just had the girl." I go, "What are you talking about? I just talked to you." And so she after she hung up, she ended up going to the hospital that night. Her parents were there. And so they went to the hospital. She gave birth. And in the morning, she gives me a call to say, "We had the girl." And I said, "Well, I can't come home now. I mean, it's Game 7 tonight." So I go, "If we lose, I'll see you after the game, because we'll fly right back to Vancouver. But if we win," we were going to Dallas, and we didn't have home ice, so we were going on the road right away. We end up winning that game, and we end up flying to Dallas. And this is the cool thing about Pat Quinn. This is what I'll tell you. We go to Dallas. We win the first game. So we're up 1-0 in Dallas. Pat Quinn takes me after practice. Says, we're gonna go somewhere. I said, "Okay." So we start going, and Pat used to love to smoke the cigars. So he took me to this place in Dallas where he buys cigars, because I had to buy cigars for the boys because I just had a girl. So that's the kind of coach he was. So we went there. Yeah. We got the cigars, and then we practiced the next day before the next game. And after the practice, all the media comes in to ask questions, right? And then Pat goes, "Give us another 10 minutes. So the media is waiting for us. And he goes, "We want to, congrats Mo for having the girl." And so I'm going around passing around the cigars. And he goes, "Listen, I know everybody doesn't smoke cigars, but out of respect, you got to light it and have a puff. And if you don't want the cigar, just leave it out there." So everyone starts lighting, and we're smoking all these cigars in Dallas in the room after the practice. And then all the media come in. They're like, "What the hell's going on?" It's like we won the cup or something. But that was the thing that Pat did that I'll never forget. That the family was. At what point?
When did you get to see your daughter for the first time? Yeah, when was the first time you got to see her?
After we ended up winning Game 2, and then we flew home. So 5 days later, I got home to see her. And my wife says she'll never forget, because the whole hospital, the nurses, everybody was watching Game 7 at the hospital, because it was a big thing in Vancouver, right?
Yeah,
so it was kind of cool. And then So everyone was kind of happy. We got to the next round. Nobody knew how far we would go. But once we won that first round, I mean, Dallas was a very good team as well. They had Mike Modano, and they were good, and we beat them in 5. And
So Mo,
just,
which game did you score overtime? Which you got an overtime winner in that series, right?
I did in Game 4 at home, because they came and they won the first game back in that at the time they had they went 2-3-2, so 2 on the road, 3 at home, and then 2 if we went back to Dallas because of the travel. So we lost the first game coming back, so then we're up 2-1. And then that game is when I scored to make it 3-1.
Game 4.
Game 4, yeah, overtime against Andy Moog. Yeah, went.
How cool is that? Like, come on, we see it all the time, right? Yeah. We see guys score like Tkachuk this year scoring overtime winners, like big games or 7-game, but just to score an OT winner in the playoffs is huge. That must have been awesome for you.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was a play that was thrown to the front of the net. I turned around, it was there, and I spun and I picked the corner, and when it went in, like I was falling at the same time, and then all the guys just jumped on me, and it was at home, so it was great. And the crowd was going mental, it was going nuts, and it was kind of cool. They were kind of having my daughter Natanya as a good luck charm, because she was born on Game 7 against Calgary, and it kind of became they like to make these stories. It kind of became a little bit of a storyline, and then we won the next game, and then we moved on to the next round against the Leafs, which we definitely we were pumped. It was kind of like the West against the East.
So you get through them, and then you go to the final, and you end up with the Rangers, and that's Marc Messier's team that year. And how difficult was that series? Going 7 games, you go into New York, play Game 7, and it was a close game, right? Overtime.
Was that the series too, where Messier guaranteed Game 6?
No, he guaranteed.
No, that was
Game
Devils.
6
Oh,
that was
against the
Devils.
Devils.
Okay.
The one before.
Yeah, the one before.
Yeah, and we beat Toronto in 5 as well, which was good because we needed the rest. And they went 7 against the Devils, but they kind of swept the series before, and they had a chart actually. I remember they were showing it on TV. The distance traveled between the two teams.
Yeah.
I mean, they played the Islanders, I think. And I don't know who they played in the second round.
Street.
It might have been Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then they played the Devils. So we played Calgary. Okay, so that was the closest one, an hour flight, whatever. And then we played Dallas, and then we played Toronto. So they added up the distances, and we were like, so many miles ahead of travel-wise. But we were there, Ducks, and at that point, you're running on adrenaline. We ended up. They were the best team in the league that year. I think they had 114 points. They had all the players. Brian Leach, to me, was the best player in that series, and so was Kovalov.
The best coach ever. Right?
So was Kovalov. Yeah.
I played for Keenan. I'm just kidding.
No, I hear you, man. So did I for a couple months, unfortunately.
Well, we'll get to those stories.
Yeah. So. We won Game 1 in New York, and we had no business winning. I think Kurt McLean made like 50 saves. Then they hit the post in overtime. We scored on a 2-on-1 in overtime, and then we got the first game out of the way. And then we didn't play very good the first game. We played better the second game, which we could have won. But we came out with a split, and that was good in New York. But we ended up going back to Van and losing both games in Van. One game, Pavel Bure got kicked out, but we never gave up. I mean, Game 5, they were already planning the Stanley Cup parade in New York, and you see teams that are down, that they're going to get eliminated, and then you don't play for 2 months. Like I have friends tell me, Nux, this series is over, and I go, it's not over. I mean, you don't play for a month and a half or almost 2 months to say I'm going to give up now. There's no way. And we already won 3-1 series. We've come back. We ended up winning that game 6-3, Game 5. We ended up winning Game 6 back in. I knew, we had our mentality was if we win Game 5, we're coming back for Game 7. There's no way they're winning Game 6, and that's just the mentality that you got to have. And and we lost 3-2 in Game 7, and we hit the post in the third. I mean, it was as close as you can get. But I mean, in Madison Square Garden, it was fun. I just wish the result was different, but it was pretty cool. I mean, then you're like, this is the best. You know, you're playing at the best, the top level, and you're in the big stage, and it was kind of great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Did you ever think like you were like when you lost that game, were you like, that's my last chance to ever do this, like win a cup, or did you think you would actually be back there?
Yeah, it's so hard to get back. I mean, it really is true that, I mean, except when they had the dynasties before, you know, with the Canadiens and the Islanders and that. I mean, even the Penguins won twice in a row after that. It was tough. I mean, it was getting harder and harder. There was a lot of good teams, and yeah, you don't know when you're going to get back. So that's why you're thinking when you're in that series, you know, like you want to win because you're not sure if you're going to get another chance. I never went back. Listen, I was 85, 86 with the Habs, but I was hurt. But I wasn't in another final until 94. So that just goes to show, you know, that's 9 years later, and then I never was again. So. Yeah.
It is so difficult to get there. I don't care what anybody says, hardest trophy to win in sports. And Sergio, I remember we won in 86. And okay, we'll be back next year. I don't think so.
No.
And you go back to that Rangers series. The Rangers played the Islanders that year in the playoffs. They played Washington and they played New Jersey. So talk about no travel. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. So to take them to 7 games, all that travel, everything. How was Boré as a teammate? Matter he's a great player, obviously. How was he as a teammate? Did he
Good.
He fit in with the boys? Good guy.
He did. He didn't speak a lot of English at the beginning, but you know, it was funny that Pavel and Gino Ojic were best buddies. So you had Gino, who was the tough guy, and Pavel was the star guy. Let's say it was like the odd couple, and they used to be roommates together and stuff like that. But they were great friends, and it's funny. Gino would come in with a jeans and a t-shirt or whatever, and Pavel would be dressed with Versace and
for
like,
practice.
Well, not for practice, but let's just say.
Could you go on the road? Like you could wear jeans on the road and stuff?
Not when we traveled, but on the days off, yeah. But I'm just saying, Pavel used to wear Versace. Pavel was a designer guy, right? Okay, so this was kind of funny, but he was pretty good because you could joke with him. And one guy, I remember, he had a shirt, and it was like a bunch of flowers on it and stuff. And one of the guys started going, ba 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 ba, like Hawaii 5-0, and everyone started laughing with the shirt. And he didn't understand because he didn't grow up with that. Yeah. And then someone said, he goes, why are you laughing? And we said, well, that shirt looks like, you look like McGarrett from Hawaii 5-0. And he goes, what's Hawaii 5-0? He goes, well, it's like a Hawaiian shirt, He goes, what you mean, Hawaiian shirt? He goes, this shirt is $500. Versace. He goes, yeah, but it still looks like, one guy says, yeah, but it still looks like shit. And he was pissed off, but he was good about it. You know what I mean?
That's the Russians, though. They when I played there, they used to come on 7-day road trips and just like they would wear like a hooded sweatshirt with sweatpants, but it would be like all Gucci, and that was it. They would wear it for 7 days straight. We call them fart suits, and they would just. Oh, it was amazing.
Fart suits.
Yeah.
Well, they had the designer stuff. There's no question. And then we had other guys like at that time we used to get these free stuff from NHLPA stuff, and there was one guy in our team used to wear it all the time, Gerald Didick, and he came in. I don't know where he was from, and I go, Dids, I've seen you all year. Have you ever worn anything? That you bought?
You cheap fuck.
Did you buy anything this year? And he goes, no. He goes, if it's free, it's on me. So he used to wear everything we get for free. Remember Knux? We used to get stuff all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, guys would wear that all the time. So funny.
So that year after the Stanley Cup final, there's a lockout year, right? And You go over Italy, played a few games over there. Then you come back with Van, end up in Toronto, end up with the Rangers, and then back in St. Louis. And your NHL career, you retire in 96, 97. Then you head over to Germany. How was that, your time in Germany? Because I always say it, like I had a chance to go to Bolzano when I retired, and I passed up on that chance. I didn't want to move my family and everything.
Yeah.
And when I think back now, I go, "What? God, I wish I did it," but I didn't. So that's one regret I do have in my life. But how was your time in Germany? How cool was that? And how different was it?
Well, it's definitely different. I mean, you come from the NHL, you go over there, and it's like playing in the minors. Germany is a good league. There was a lot of North Americans over there. It was kind of like half-half. You were allowed to have 10 imports, and 10 Germans had to be in the lineup. And at the time, it depended. If you had a Canadian coach or an American coach, you'd have more North American guys over there. If you went to a team with a Swedish coach, you'd have more Swedes or Russians, or depending. And you saw that. I changed teams one year. I started off in Cologne, and then I went to Nuremberg, and it was Peter Inacek, the coach. You remember him?
Yeah.
He was a Czech player that
Played
played
in
for
Toronto.
the Leafs. Yeah. And I remember the first year Cologne was like a high budget team, and Nuremberg was not. And they paid a couple of guys some money, but then the rest you could see the gap and the difference of where they were getting the players. They were getting them from second leagues and in Russia or in Czech, and you just saw the difference on the budget. But Peter was good. No, and the experience was good. Knux, it was tough. My kids were all young at the time, 5, 3, and 2, and it's not like you're in a house. Pretty much, they put you in an apartment. And that's tough when you got 3 kids that are running around in an apartment.
Couldn't wait to get on the road.
It's tough for the wife, but we didn't even go on the road because you'd go and come back.
You bust the same day, yeah.
Oh,
I played in Ingolstadt. I retired
right.
in Ingolstadt, yeah, and it was
Ingolstadt.
everything. There was no road trips. It was just like the same day, yeah.
Yeah, we had 2 trips. Was Munich and Berlin, where we would fly because Cologne had some money, so we would actually. We were one of the rare teams that would fly in that league. Most of them had the buses. When I went to Nuremberg, we used to bus to Berlin 7 hours and play. It was like junior all over again. And I was in my 30s, and I'm going, we're not staying in a hotel? Like, no. They didn't have the budget, right? I go, no wonder you guys are terrible on the road. I mean, we're not teenagers anymore. But that's just the way it was. They had those double-decker buses. You remember that? Those were kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
did you go to Oktoberfest at all?
We did. Yeah, that was great.
It's like Puke Fest. It's just everyone's just puking.
That was great. Actually, the owner of Nuremberg, he was pretty cool. He took us there. And from Nuremberg, Munich was about an hour and a half by bus, and we went there, and we took the bus, so we didn't have to worry about driving. So we just spend the whole day there, and then they'd bus us back. It was kind of a team bonding thing. It was good. It was good.
So Mo, you both played for Keenan. We had Keenan on, and I said, listen, Mike, everybody I talked to, Mike Keenan is the biggest prick as a coach. And he said, yeah, well, he said that the only thing with that, he says, I'm a nice prick. But you and Tim both haven't played for him. Like, what do you got for Keenan's story? How was he with you? I mean, you had Pat Quinn as a coach, a guy that certainly respected the guys. He got close with the guy. He was a player's coach. But Keenan, the polar opposite of a guy like Pat Quinn. How was he with you? I know you had him in New York, right?
No, I had him. I actually had him at the end when I got traded back to St. Louis.
Okay. All right. He was in St. Louis that year. I mean, it was the Rangers.
I heard a lot of stuff about him anyway. Listen, I played for Sutter for 3 years, so I know where we're going here.
So Keenan couldn't be that much worse?
Yeah.
Well, it was more with Mike, as you know, Tim. It's mind games, right? It's like all of a sudden you just throw a curveball at you to see how you react, And the thing was, when I was there at the end of my career, that was my last year, and then they bought me out, and then I went to Europe the year after. I was at the point where I didn't care what he said.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't have bothered me. I just would have told him off because I was at that point in my career. I think if I had him more in the mid part of my career where, you kind of needed to be cool with a coach. Even
You
if
couldn't tell him to fuck off.
No,
Exactly.
no, yeah.
Exactly. Which happened. Which happened. I had a few fights with Sutter for sure because we butted heads because, he would always get on you for stuff and then wouldn't get on the star players at other times. And I'm like, hey, you got to get on the other guys as well, not just me. So, we had our differences because we were both strong-willed. So, with me, Mike, what I loved about it is that Holly and Mike went at it because
that
Holly
must have been beautiful.
was
funny
dogging
ones,
it
I bet.
a little bit on the ice, and Mike was losing his mind, and I loved it because just the fact that someone can make Mike go
Yep.
crazy, I just love that. So that was the best. So watch those two guys go at it, and then Holly would go, "Who do you think's going to win, me or Mike?" So.
So
Mike
Tim
got-
had
Mike
him in
got
Russia.
Yeah, Mike
Tim
got
had him
fired.
over in Russia, right? Tim.
Yeah, and he was like Iron Mike, like no one understood him, like but me. So it was like
He wasn't
the mind
softer
games.
over there. He was still
No,
the same way.
He was like Mike. He was like Iron Mike on steroids. He was like just thriving off of it. But yeah, the mind games, like it affected me. I thought, I played hard for him, but I just was always why? Like I was like, man, we're like the only two North Americans. Like I thought we'd just kind of, have a little bond of like, hey, but he didn't care. He was, like you said, you never knew what he was going to say. You're always just kind of on edge.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I think that's
right.
part
Don't
of
you
it.
think?
No,
Don't you
it is
think, Mo?
crazy. It is crazy, that fear tactic. I remember Dave Poulin, who I met with TSN. He does the broadcast, and he would tell us stories when he was in Philly, and he'd always have the guys, like you said, always on edge. And I think they had a thing where just before Christmas or whatever, everyone goes and sees their family and stuff like that. And normally, you got to book your flights and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like today. I know my nephew plays. They get a couple guys together and they charter a jet. You got to, these guys. In our days, we had to book a regular flight to go back home if you did. So you had to make sure that if you're playing Monday, then you leave Tuesday and you're back on Friday. And I know he did something to the guys on the Flyers because they played bad the last game before Christmas, and then he got them to go back on the ice, and he skated them for I don't know how long, and half of the guys missed their flights. I mean, it's so stupid, and so everyone goes back home at Christmas when you should be happy, and then
And
you're
he
pissed
fucks
off.
everybody over.
So I mean, he just loves to see guys being miserable. I don't know how that makes you want to play more for the guy. I have no idea.
Imagine today if you have a coach in the NHL today. God,
Oh, he'd be in jail.
Oh God, Christ, they wouldn't show up for Christ's sake.
No.
I don't think. But
No,
today, Mo, and certainly doing the radio with the Habs, getting in and doing the color man stuff. You worked alongside one of the best in the business, and Dan for so many years, and then he moves on. How's that transition been for you? Like, you still enjoying it? And it's tough. It's always easier when you're winning, right? And you've been through some pretty tough years here, watching this hockey team and commentating on them, analyzing the games. But how's that been? Especially as of late, you see some light at the end of the tunnel with this team.
Yeah, I do. It's just too bad that they had so many injuries last year. No one was expecting that they were going to make the playoffs, but Keenan, who got hurt, is a great young defenseman. Obviously, Caulfield, I forget how many goals he had, like maybe 26 already. He was going to get 40 goals, you'd think, if he stayed healthy. And there was a lot of good stories, like Arbor Jack on defense that makes the team, and then one of the toughest guys in the league and just a solid player. The list goes on. I think you saw a lot of good signs. It's too bad that you saw Kirby Dach, who if he gets hurt later on, I think a good good second center to Suzuki. If he stayed healthy all year, and then Sean Monahan, who's a guy that everyone forgot about, because he got hurt so early in the season. I think it was around December and never really recovered. He was playing well, and that was another guy that they had at center. So I think, whatever happens with their contracts and stuff, I know Sean Monahan, I think he has another year, but I think the future's good. I and a lot of people that I talk to in the city are happy that the way things have gone with Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton. I think they really like the shift, and Marty St. Louis, that they see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, and if in 2 years we're still talking about not making the playoffs, I think they have one more year.
If there's a light at the end of the tunnel, it's a train.
They got 2 years. They got 2 years, yeah. And there was strangely a lot of injuries last year. I think they would have got another 8 to 10 points. They still wouldn't have made the playoffs, but I think if they stay healthy, I think it looks good.
Yeah, they get a pass for next year. How about you? Like, how was that for you? Like working alongside Dan, getting in the radio, not being formally trained in it, and then making the transition, get going. You felt so. You and Dan together was so good, and then Dan ends up leaving. How difficult adjustment was that for you? Who was the new guy again? What's his name?
Yeah, Peter Rutgazer. Yeah. Before that, I started off with Rick Moffat. Yeah. And then he retired, and then there was Dan. No, John Bartlett.
John Bartlett, that's right.
And
two pros, him and Dan.
Yeah, two guys that are on TV, and then Peter Rutgazer. I mean, it's everyone has their different style. You just have to know when to come in and when to come out. I think with Dan, I could close my eyes and say something, and we wouldn't step over each other. Just because I knew when he would pause, and he kind of knew when I would get out, and then he would continue on the play. It's just something that over the years that you get to know the guy. It's like playing with someone you knew where he's going to be and stuff like that. So that's just the way the business goes. Everybody, good for them. I mean, they move up. They're doing TV gigs, so they got to move up. And so that's the way it goes. I did some games last year. I think I did about 15 as well. So, I enjoyed that. That was a challenge, doing that as well. So I'm hopefully get the same amount or more this year as well.
All right. So you have a little side business going on now with the Momesso's spread. How's that going? And
what kind of spread is this? Knux tried to explain it. Is it like a jardinera? Is it what is it?
Yeah, well, it's hot peppers, but then it's all mixed with different types of vegetables.
Secret ingredients. I tried to get it. I tried to get the ingredients from Mo, and he no way. He said, "I'll get you some."
Well, now if you look at the jars, it's written.
I know.
But okay, Knuckles, I got to get you some. I don't have I should be.
You got to drop a case off here at the house. Come on.
Hold on a second.
Put it on here. Let's see it.
We eat that stuff in the U.S. too. You're just saying.
I know. People have been asking me. Hold on a second.
That'd be awesome if you get it down in the States, Mo. Yeah, you got to deal with the border and all that.
Yeah,
yes, we can do that.
I ain't paying that duty fee or whatever you paid, Knux, for the boy.
I know.
Remember that?
But I got
here's some free stuff. It's cost you $60.
I got a $5 bag of Biltong. I paid $50 in duty.
It's a deal. That's a deal.
55.
Yeah, that's our monthly deal.
Bag of Biltong, baby.
It's our biggest. It was our biggest.
It's
sale.
good.
I'm walking in the garage here.
Okay, so we're following Mo through the house, to the garage.
Find out how good it is.
We're gonna see the product right here.
A sec, I got to go back because I couldn't hold the computer, and because I got 4.
All right.
Anyway,
so this hot sauce is the best. I'm telling you, the spread, you put it on sandwiches, and it's unbelievable. And the sausage sandwich.
Okay, Tim, you give me your address, sandwich. Tim. I'll send you some, Tim.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll be giving it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Tim, I'll send you Sergio's info, and you can send him your address. All right.
Awesome.
You know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. This is one.
Here we
Oh,
go.
Momesso.
There it is. Yeah. The spicy.
Okay, this is
And-
artichoke and roasted red pepper. These are the new ones. Did you try these Knuckles
Ooh,
yet?
I haven't had the new
Artichoke
ones. I've
sounds
had the
good.
mild and I've had the spicy hot.
Okay. So Knuckles had the originals, which was the green and then
There we go.
the red.
There we go. So,
Okay, so
when you
these
see
are-
that,
these were the first two.
when you see that, people on the shelves in the grocery store, IGA, Metro, everywhere, make sure you pick it up. No, I'm serious. It's awesome. It's
They
awesome.
are good. I'll get you these ones, Knuckles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the new
you
ones.
got to
I
put that on
definitely
your
want them.
table so when you're doing your
All
show.
right.
Nah, I'm just joking. Yeah, and you send me your info, Tim,
Yeah, no, you'll be getting it for sure.
and then we'll get it in Chicago.
Yeah,
You be my man
That's
in Chicago.
done.
There you go.
Whatever you need.
No problem.
I need
Just send it by truck, a big pallet.
I take. I work on 75%. I take upsells. Does that sound like a deal or what?
What are you, Sicilian? What are you?
This is mafioso.
Oh God.
Awesome.
So good. Well, Mo, listen, wish you all the best in the business there. And we got to get out and play golf, buddy. Come on.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Raw Knuckles podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.